Hi, it's Simon Smart here. When I first came across Dr Beilharz's music program for people living with dementia, I was intrigued. How would a program like this work? It sounded fascinating. So we spoke to Kirsty in our studio about it all, and then we sent our producer, Karen Tong, to one of the residential care homes where the program's run. So we hope you enjoy this story about music and the mind.
Welcome to Life and Faith from the Centre for Public Christianity. I'm Natasha Moore.
And I'm Simon Smart.
The chances are that you know someone or you know someone who knows someone with dementia. There are more than 353,000 Australians living with dementia, most of them over the age of 65. Ivy is one of them.
Well, I spent nearly all my life at Torrens Creek, and I had about 18 months in Charters Towers. I don't know if you've been there, have you?
No, Ivy is 105 years old.
In fact, I was in there about 6 months ago.
She hasn't actually travelled around Australia for a while. She's been living in a residential care home in Sydney's north for the past couple of years.
I come home around about 18 months ago. I do a lot of travelling up west, Richmond and all those places.
An estimated 1.2 million Australians are involved in the care of a person with dementia, that is, a person like Ivy. This includes family members, doctors and nurses, professional carers, and even, in the case of Ivy and her fellow residents, a former music professor.
Yeah, I love music. Even when I go to bed, I usually have the music playing softly, and go to sleep that way. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ivy is part of a new music engagement program that aims to encourage and empower people living with dementia through music.
Oh, well, actually, I like all the old-time songs, When I go to bed, I generally sing myself to sleep. But it's not the late songs, it's all the old-timers. But I love music, and I'm sorry my sister learnt the piano, and my mother tried to make me learn, but I was too much of a larrikin,
Through this program, 750 people have received iPods with personalised playlists so that they can listen to the songs they love. And there's a range of participatory programs like the choir, as well as the spontaneous sing-along.
Try to sing one song for me?
No, I can't sing.
That's Ivy again. Her carers tell me she just needs a little coaxing and someone leading the way. So a couple of minutes later, Ivy sings.
Say all of us, so say all of us, for she's a jolly good fellow, for she's a jolly good fellow, for she's a jolly good fellow. And so say all of us. I'm not much of a singer.
The person at the helm of this program is Dr Beilharz. She's Director of Music Engagement at Hammond Care's Dementia Centre in Sydney.
I spent a lot of time in academia and as a professor of music, and also working in interaction design, which you'll hear has a connection to designing musical instruments. And a couple of years ago, an opportunity came up to really look at the ways that we could use music engagement in dementia care. Not just music therapy, but really at looking at broader aspects of lifestyle in which music could be helpful.
It's a really powerful thing in this context. I've seen that myself with people experiencing dementia. And then music kind of brings them to life quite suddenly and a bit shockingly in a sort of wonderful way. But tell us a bit more about this music engagement program. What does it involve for the participants?
We're really looking at music as something to be available all of the time and to be integrated part of the lifestyle. So I guess in residential care, which is where we've started off this program, we're looking to have 3 different approaches. The first is to have individualised music, the music that's really special to someone, their favourite music that's been meaningful to them throughout their life, and it's really relevant and individual, and that appears on a playlist on their iPods, and people can listen by themselves or with a visitor or family member. The second arm is a participatory approach, singing in choirs, joining in entertainers, and having an active involvement. So whereas passive music is able to be very tailored and individualised, and that's advantageous, there's a different advantage to being actively involved and being able to move your body and sing along and join in the pleasure of that, and to feel part of a community and to feel involved in a sense of belonging and able to contribute. And then the third way is with the design of new musical instruments specifically designed for people with dementia. You would be familiar with a lot of musical instruments that are quite difficult to play, require a lot of practice, and generally can sound a little bit frustrating if you're not extremely good at them. Then there's also sometimes the use of instruments that are easy to play, but they're repetitive percussion instruments. So what we've tried to do is make something that looks and feels age-appropriate, is very tactile, very engaging and motivating to play and to interact with. And we've tried to design that to also yield really nice-sounding music with a minimum of effort and expertise.
It has to be the ukulele. Am I wrong?
Perhaps for you it does. That's the point. It's tailored to each person and what is significant. If you've grown up in Hawaii, for instance, and you love the ukulele, it might be just the perfect thing.
So what is it exactly? Describe one or two of these items.
A couple of the musical instruments designed by the students, these are students of art and design at the University of New South Wales. They're studying interaction and they want to understand the person who's using the thing they design better. So they came to join in with our residents in an exercise class, and they saw that it's important to motivate and interest people and engage them. So they tried to make the instruments quite tactile and colourful. They have interesting textures such as fur, or they resemble some of the balls and devices that we use in an exercise class, and now they have a sense of sound that reinforces and makes that more exciting to do.
What's been the impact? Things that you could see as benefits.
The research is not brand new that says that music can be beneficial for people with dementia, but it's largely occurred in a clinical setting or very short trials, and our ambition was to make it available to everyone and to a very large group of people with the flexibility that the music can be used at the time which is really relevant to the person. So to give you an example, if someone is reluctant to shower or having trouble getting to sleep at night, the care staff need to be able to give that person the music to listen to when it's relevant. An appointment with a specific music therapist on a Wednesday morning at 8:30 is not going to work quite as individually as that.
No, that won't help that situation. So it's like tailored to individual needs.
Yes, so it's very much responding to the person. I've been personally very moved by the effects that we see with people with fairly advanced dementia. When people first have a diagnosis of dementia, they're often quite cognizant of their condition, and they can do many of the same things they've always done, and it may just be that their memory is slightly impaired or fairly minor effects in the first instance. But when dementia progresses, we see people who become actually very isolated. Speech is one of the things that people often do lose, and so the ability to receive information and to communicate their feelings, their emotions, is something that often disappears. It's those people for whom music is still able to really affect them. You see people who've been still burst into big smiles or start moving, and we even see people who can't converse in a conversation start to remember words and sing words in the context of a melody in a song.
It's really and truly treating people like they're more than bodies, right? Like
Absolutely.
There's a lot more to us than just being cared for physically.
In some ways, what we're quite good at is people's physical and medical needs. It's very clear how to medicalise a condition and treat symptoms such as pain management, even though that's harder to detect for a person with dementia. But we're good at wound care, for example, or about giving medications or food or helping people with their hygiene. Things like supporting a person's emotional needs and spiritual needs, their need for companionship, belonging, and to have a sense of what's after this. Those are things that are so integral to our very being, and they're so much of who we are and who our identity is, and yet those things can't be solved with a pill or a medical intervention.
You're listening to Life and Faith from the Centre for Public Christianity. If you've just joined us, we're talking about how music can transform the care of a person living with dementia.
Don,
Yes,
I've got a favourite song that you might like to listen to.
you have.
Yes, let's try it.
That's Jeanette, a professional carer, talking to another resident, Don. He's sitting opposite Ivy in a wheelchair and his eyes are closed. Jeanette clips the iPod on the back of his collar and places the bright blue headphones on his ears. First, he starts to tap his foot gently, echoing each beat, and then he starts to sing.
You
can't really make out the words, but he's humming along to one of his favourite hymns.
He was connected with the church in a big way, and just if you put on a song about the church, some hymns, he just becomes engaged and sings loudly, and it brings joy to all the other residents, and they sing along with him. Basically, he's reminiscing about his days connected with the church, and I think having faith and that connection of singing, it just brings back memories to him. And without the music, I think Don would be very lost.
Hearing from Don there, Kirsty, you can almost feel the connection to the hymns. Now, is that something specific to Don, or do you see other people living with dementia responding to hymns in a similar fashion?
I think the significant aspect of this is that people are responding to long ago memories and experiences in music that's deeply significant to them. So for Don, who spent so much of his life in the church and for whom hymns and the prayer book, the Psalter, sung and recited would have been part of everyday life, it is absolutely central for him. For someone else, that might be a different kind of music as well.
That generation now is still a generation that nearly everyone went to church, so those kind of church hymns and songs resonate. There'll come a time, presumably, when that's not like that anymore.
Yes, I'm quite struck by that because I'm surprised, I must say, at how many people are empathetic towards both classical music and instrumental church music, organ music, hymns, songs, and know those songs or know songs from the Billy Graham campaigns, for instance. Even if they're not obviously active believers, that music's been present and important.
Part of their world.
At the same time, I'm looking in my research at how you best support someone's spiritual needs. So you can imagine that in Australia very soon, that's going to include how best to support the other major faiths as well, and looking at, for example, particularly in palliative care, the different wishes around dying well that perhaps a Buddhist or a Hindu might have. So I think our cultural competency and our familiarity of music with other cultures is going to have to obviously grow as the diversity of the people we care for also widens. How do they experience certitude about the end of their life, for example? So there's some pretty major concerns that come to the fore, and as people get older, they sometimes start to think about legacy, eternity, those sorts of issues more than they may have before, reconciling relationships with family even. So I actually think some people might become more spiritually aware and reflective, particularly if they're ageing and aware of what season they're in.
Kirsty, what for you has been the most rewarding part of this bringing music into the care of people with dementia?
Well, as you said, I'm not trained in dementia care, and a lot of the people who I work with are nurses and dementia specialists, occupational therapists and so forth. For me, music is the way that I can care. It's the way that I can serve and love people and connect with people and communicate with people. So I have found it extremely rewarding. It's not about me, but I just love seeing the positive feedback. And I also see that staff are enabled by this. It's particularly rewarding when you see a number of care staff take great pleasure in the emotional feedback of people who live in our care, seeing them have extra tools at their disposal to connect with people and to realise that they can reach people and support their emotional needs, that they're not there merely to look after their material and physiological needs.
You've been listening to Life and Faith. I'm Simon Smart, and Natasha and I have been speaking about music and the mind, hearing from Dr Dr Beilharz about the effects of music for people with dementia.
This story is available on our website, publicchristianity.org, and on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Just type Life and Faith in the search box to find us.
Next week, why the actress who played a 1920s prostitute for the Australian TV drama Underbelly decided to investigate Jesus and Christianity. I hope you join us then.